Welcome everyone to Inside the Birds. It's Adam Caplan. It's draft time, folks. We're 24 hours away from this year's NFL draft, and we had to have our guy, former Eagles quarterbacks coach, the best in the business, John DeFilippo. Flip, good to see you, man.
Great to see you guys. Always a pleasure to be with you.
All right, so John, one of the big reasons why I wanted to have you back on this show in particular, because no one better to walk us through and take us through what happens because you've been a quarterbacks coach. You've been an offensive coordinator. You've been an offensive quality control coach. So, John, we're going to get started there. Your first NFL job. What was your role when you worked for the Giants in offensive quality control? Hey, explain that. What can you recall about the draft and your role for that draft with the Giants back then?
Yeah, I was 2005 and 6. I was quality control with Coach Coughlin for the New York Giants,
Okay.
and it was awesome. It was a great way to be broken into the league. Basically, quality control assistant is you're the lowest man on the totem pole. You're breaking down the games. You're basically a graduate assistant coach in the NFL. That's basically the best way to put it. And you're back in the day. I mean, it was the only really way to get in. If you weren't an established coach in the NFL or in college football, either the guys that broke in were really young and there were only like two or three quality control guys on each staff, or you were an established college coach at the time
Hmm.
and you made your track record in college football and you broke in as a position coach in the NFL. So those are the only two ways to get in. But yeah, I mean, Coach Coughlin was always a promote from within guy. Like he always wanted to groom his young coaches on his staff to take over as coordinator, to take over as a position coach, to take over, those roles. And so, you were involved in everything, and he,
Hmm.
gave you it was awesome. And I remember distinctly story when I was at the Giants where people talking about sticking to your board and
Yeah.
um, you know I forget what pick we had back in 2005. I forget what pick it was, but
Uh-huh.
um, I think it was our second round pick coming up, and we had about five or six picks before that. We all got into the room with the scouts, the GM. The GM at the time was Ernie Accorsi, who was a
Yeah.
fantastic human being. Jerry Reese was the director of player personnel, so he was kind of, not I want to say running the draft because obviously it was Ernie's call who we drafted and this and that, but um, he was very involved. He later became the GM of the Giants for a long time, and Mr. Mara, Wellington Mara, was still with us at the time, and we were taught there was a block of five guys that we were talking about, and I'll never forget, Mr. Mara didn't say a word ever.
Hmm.
He's the nicest guy. I mean, no, I don't want to say he was an unbelievable man.
Yeah.
His name's on the football, the Duke. But
That's right.
he spoke up and the room got silent. He goes, "Guys, I thought that if Justin Tuck was going to be here with this pick, we are going to take Justin Tuck." And the room just went silent. You could hear a pin drop. And sure enough, we took Justin Tuck and, had an unbelievable career with the Giants. I was assisting the receiver coach and the quarterback coach. So I was assisting Kevin Gilbride and Mike Sullivan and watching some of the lower round guys,
Right.
they let me read my reports, in the big room. And it was, a pretty cool experience for a 28-year-old kid.
All right. So the next job you had, now this is fascinating. You went to the Raiders. You went to Oakland.
Yeah.
And you were obviously at training camp in Napa, which is my favorite training camp ever.
Oh,
Nothing
it's
compares to that,
unbelievable.
as you know. So, John, because you were a point man, and we'll talk about your time with the Eagles later on, but this, if I'm not mistaken, were you not there for Jamarcus Russell's
I
rookie season?
was. I
All
was
right.
there. Yeah, I remember it well. It's
Okay.
Jamarcus, Brady Quinn, Trent Edwards. I mean, I remember like it was yesterday.
Wow.
And yeah, I thought Jamarcus had a ton of talent. Obviously a ton of God-given talent. I mean, he had a really good year at LSU that year. And you know, that that draft experience couldn't have been any different than what the Giants was. And in just a different way. It doesn't mean it's good. It doesn't mean it's bad because I have a special place for Coach Al Davis. I call Al Davis coach because he was a coach. He was very, very good to me. And I have always admired him. He knew the guys that would use the catchy sayings and this and that, and the guys that really watched the tape. you know, and
Okay.
could form an opinion on a player. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And I mean, he and I had some head-to-head battles now about Matt Ryan the following year. I mean, he and I
Ooh, do tell.
were toe to toe talking about Matt Ryan, and
Okay.
Coach Davis, you know, wanted a guy that could move and this and that. And he just for the way the Raiders met too was we all sat in there with Coach and watched the tape. He may ask me an opinion on a DB. He may ask the D line coach an opinion on a quarterback.
Sure.
He wanted to make sure you were paying attention and you know could form an opinion. I loved it. I thought it was freaking awesome. He was cool with you know some back and forth, and he wanted that. He encouraged it. So yes, you could I don't want to say talk him into anything because at the end of the day, it was his decision. But would he listen? Yes.
John, so because a lot of people had questions about how the process works. So let's start at All-Star games. East West Shrine, you mentioned, Senior
Mhm.
Bowl. What do you think the value of those games are? And if there are any negatives, let us know. What do you think the value is of those games?
I think there's a ton of value.
Okay.
First off, I always liked going to the Senior Bowl because, in fact, that's the first thing. Well, the second thing that turned me on to Carson Wentz um, was watching him at practice. The way he interacted with his teammates, how excited he got on the practice field, the way he ran from drill to drill, the way he did those things really encompass some leadership things that I liked. Okay, I really liked. Is that the whole piece of the pie? It's not. It's a piece of the evaluation process. Um, I like seeing quarterbacks thrown to receivers they don't know.
Sure.
You know what I mean? It just shows you how you know either you're accurate or you're not, right? I liked seeing them in person. Uh, Going to the Senior Bowl to watch their throwing motion. I liked seeing it in person.
John, when we look at pre-draft visits, well actually let's get to combine interviews because I've seen your because Eagles put it out. Speaking of Carson Wentz, your combine interview as his coaching staff, Frank Reich was in there, Doug Peterson, yourself, and others, and also because you were an OC with three teams.
Hmm.
What is the value of the combine interview?
I mean, you can get a general opinion on a guy in terms of what you know he knows,
Hmm.
but it's not 100% accurate because one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL right now had probably maybe the top five worst quarterback interview I've ever had, and he's really doing well right now in the NFL. I'm not going to say names, but so it's not 100%. I'd say
Mm.
it's probably 80% accurate or
Okay.
maybe 85%. Like case in point, when Gardner Minshew came in and I was in the OC in Jacksonville, he just lights up the room, man.
Of course.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
He lights up the room, and I'll tell you, fellow, you know, Tom Coughlin. Speaking of Coach Coughlin again, he was the president of the Jags at the time. He fell in love with Gardner in that 15-minute interview.
Ah, the informal interviews. What are those like at the combine? And they last longer?
Yeah, all depends on how if they're forcing it or if they're. When I
Uh,
was coaching,
mhm.
it was a circus. It was literally a circus. They call it the train station over there in
Yes,
Indianapolis, and it's just a for a multi-billion-dollar business. It's amazing they can't get a better system going than that. But I don't know if they've changed it in the last 3 years. I've been out, but
sure.
it was a circus.
Private workouts, John.
Ooh.
This was kind of made famous and on the quarterback caravan for when you've been on our show over the years, you've talked about it when you were working out Carson Wentz and Jared Goff. Generally, you just because it's you could structure it the way you want it, right? How does this work with these quarterback workouts?
I wanted to keep them all as generally the same. Like when we were doing this with Coach Peterson and Coach Reich and myself, we
Okay,
kind of sat down and the three of us and we're like, okay, what do we need to see? Like, you know
sure,
what I mean? Like, what do we have to see here? Like, let's just start there. And then they would list the things I need to see this, and this. And then pretty much I constructed the workout. All right.
sure,
And I got with the quarterbacks because that's your job as the quarterback coach. That's, you know, that's not the job of the head coach or the OC. They have a lot of other stuff going on. And, you know, the OC's watching every player on offense and the head coach is watching everybody. And there's just a lot going on during draft time with free agency still involved,
sure,
all that.
sure.
So it's on the position coach to make sure this workout goes smooth. So I wanted to make sure it was down to a T. So
Okay,
I got all the guys' information and called them, you know, weeks ahead of time when we knew we were going out there. And I
yeah,
said, okay, you got to keep me abreast of how many receivers you're going to have there, how many tight ends you're going to have there, how many running backs you're going to have
Oh,
there.
they would bring them. Oh,
Yes.
they would bring them.
And
Oh, okay.
most of the time it was their teammates
Oh, okay.
from the college, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
From, you know,
Yeah.
and so when we went out there, I would pass out the workout to, you know, Mr. Lurie, Howie, Tom Donahoe, Doug, and Frank. And there was myself, and there were 6 of us on the plane. And if the college coach was there, usually the college head coach and OC would come out and watch. I would hand them a copy of it as well, and I'd have it up top. Okay, Carson Wentz, he's got 3 receivers, 2 tight ends, a running back, and then I would craft the workout in specific routes with specific drops that we all had come to together to say, hey, we want to see him make a 7-step to outside the numbers, blah 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 blah,
Sure.
all that. So it was pretty choreographed, man. It was very uber organized, and I tried to keep the workouts as close to equal as I could. That way, when we
Okay.
went back to watch them again, we could see Jared Goff making this throw. We'd see Carson Wentz making this throw. We could see
Sure.
Tony Hogan making this throw. We could see Paxton Lynch making this throw. We could, you know what I mean? So we could compare and contrast.
Pro days, John. I met
Yeah.
you at the 2014 LSU Pro Day in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You were the quarterback coach for the Raiders. What did you do there as a quarterbacks coach? What did you let's talk about this before we move on. As a quarterbacks coach, okay, if you can remember what, because you were with Greg Olson then when I met you, who's he's back with the Raiders for the 3rd time now, something like that. Third, yeah, yeah. But what, as a quarterbacks coach, what was your function at a pro day? And then as an offense coordinator later in your career, what was your function for a pro day?
Really, both of the same.
Okay.
Both of the same. Um, it all depends. Pro day experiences can be different. So usually, let's say you're going to watch Justin Fields. Let's use
Mm-hmm.
Justin Fields as an example.
Sure.
We drafted him
Sure.
when I was in Chicago. All
Yep.
right. Well, Justin Fields' agent and Justin Fields kind of know where he's going to be drafted. They kind of have a feeling. Nothing's set in stone, but they kind of have a feeling. Well, let's just say that the Chicago Bears had the 8th pick, which we did. It was either eighth or ninth, I forget. And the Baltimore Ravens with Lamar Jackson have the 30th pick. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you're Justin Fields and the Chicago Bears call you and say, hey, we want to take you out to dinner the night before your pro day and spend some more time with you, and the Ravens do the same thing, well, Justin Fields is probably more than likely going to go out to dinner with the Bears because he knows that there's a better chance that they're going to go with him. So there's different types of pro day visits. There's times where you just go literally and watch and you cover your basis and you're like, especially as a quarterback coach, I like to see as many guys throw in person as I could. Um, and then there's the more, I don't want to say more serious visits because they're all serious,
Right.
where you spend some time with the guy the night before, maybe like with Teddy Bridgewater. I was at the Raiders. I went to Louisville and I got him after his pro day workout and talked to him. You know, he put me through some stuff that they did at Louisville.
Okay.
Um, so those can be all a little bit different. And it all depends on kind of where in the pecking order you are with that player.
Okay. John, before we get out of here, we have a couple questions, and these are
Yeah.
really good. So let's go to what Slayer asks. He says, how does he evaluate potential quarterbacks, whether it's a high round draft pick, low round undrafted guy? What traits is he looking for watching film? Does he give a recommendation to the GM?
The college personnel department comes in and gives you a list. Um, they don't have any grades on them because they don't want, they already have grades on them. They don't want to sway your opinion. There's 3 things I look for:
Okay.
decision making, timing, and accuracy. Those that's a quarterback's DNA. Could you throw on time? Okay. Do you make good decisions and do you throw accurately?
This is a great question. So, also from Slayer, if a quarterback has poor throwing mechanics or footwork from his college tape, how do you coach a guy when you get him in the pros? This is a quite great setup.
You can make some changes from the waist down. It's
Okay,
hard from the waist up. That's kind of my definition of throwing mechanics with guys.
gotcha.
It's really hard from the waist up. Now, and again, Carson's change that we did into year 2 was all we did was we raised it up just literally 2 inches.
Carriage point,
It's the
right?
carriage point, 2 inches, and we pointed the ball out at a 45-degree angle instead of pointing the ball straight down because
Mhm.
that encourages your first movement
Okay.
to be back and not down and back.
When you work out guys out privately, what is more value for you, or you just take them individually? A private workout, which you just talked about, Goff and Wentz or others, or a pre-draft visit because you can't work at the guy out there. What?
Private workouts.
Yeah. Oh,
Private
okay.
workouts.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and especially the quarterback position. Anytime, I don't know if it's as valuable at all positions
Yeah.
as the quarterback position, but the quarterback position, private workouts the way to go because you get to see him do exactly what you want to do, and it's because everyone's pro day these days is scripted. You know what I mean? It's scripted,
Yeah.
and you get to actually see what you want to them to see.